Hello there, outliers. Niiamah Shang here, and thank you so much for letting me be a part of your journey, letting us be a part of your journey here. And I say us because we are a group of outliers who come together to leverage what makes us different to make our difference in the world. And we have one of those outliers here today. It is Jason Doiron. Jason, thank you so much for being who you are, firstly and foremost, and then bringing what you bring to the table. Thanks for being in conversation with us.
Yeah, right back at you. Thank you so much for the invitation, Niiamah, and glad to be connecting with your community. I think connecting our communities and creating Venn diagrams between all these really cool people is what we should be doing more.
Yeah, well, I am. It's not by accident that we're having our conversation now. We were thinking maybe we'd have it earlier, and then like it just worked out to be a perfect time when I realized I am committed to community. So I'm really
Mm.
excited about this conversation we're about to have. Jason, I like to start off each conversation with two things. The first one here is just like for me to ground myself into you, right? What that means here is just to share about my experience of you so far. We're really just getting to know each other, but I have found it to be really meaningful for me in the conversation. So are you open to that in here?
Absolutely.
All
Let's
right,
go
cool.
for it.
Okay, so I don't know what I'm going to say just yet, but I think. hmm, So Jason, what I get about you, this the word genuine just keeps popping up into my mind, right? And what I get about you is like you're genuine, you're like genuinely creative as well. So when I spend time with you, I get that you know what you're about, you know what you're interested in, and that comes with you not from just from a place of like a genuine gift, both to yourself, like knowing what your gift is, and a gift to others. I feel you being in that space of abundance and like let's bring in and let's make sure that we are like holding each other and our conversations and the opportunities available to us with reverence, but also fun and space and intention and progress. So I wanted to say thank you. I'm still getting to know you for sure,
Mm.
but I can feel a genuine excitement being in space with you. And I wanted to say thank you for even creating that in just a short time that we're getting to know each other.
That might be why it feels so timely and aligned with what we're going through, what we're feeling, you wanting to crystallize a community and my work here in Canada. And in the last year, I've been really more intentionally open to saying yes to good conversation,
Mhm.
whether it's connecting through social media, whether it's a stranger or someone I know or an old friend, just saying yes to having a conversation. And today is a perfect example of two random people, unicorns, connecting and ready to have ready to connect some ideas.
Yeah, most definitely. Most definitely. I love you said unicorns. I want to give outliers here an opportunity to get to know you. And the way that I like to look at this part is to give us some context about you, right? So I don't know where this conversation is going to go, but I think that it's helpful given the amount of space that we have to just like help root outliers and like the game that you're playing right now, right? Why don't we start with that? Tell us about the game you're playing, the mission that you're on, and we'll take it off from there.
Yeah, well, I'll start by recognizing where I am first and foremost. So I live in Moncton, New Brunswick. And if you don't know where that is, New Brunswick is a small province in Canada, east of Quebec. My first language is French, so most people think I live in Quebec, but I actually live in Atlantic Canada, closer to the state of Maine. I live, work, and nourish my body on the unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. This land was actually um, colonized by the British and the French, and this is a land of First Nations. And myself, as a descendant of European Acadians, and my ancestors are from France and from Ireland. I work in a space of connection and community and nature. And I've always found curious how we relate to the land we live on, the people we connect with, and how we create that connection, not just through our work and how we network and build business connections, but also how we ask for help, how we support our fellow neighbors and citizens and peoples. So my work is very much rooted in community. I've worked for quite a while in the nonprofit sector, working in youth and arts and the LGBTQ community on creating space for people to be who they really are and who they really want to become. So I've gone from project management to marketing to community radio broadcasting. Now I'm working with, I mentioned unicorns. I always say I work with a bunch of magical unicorns, which are a small group of people working with me through our company O Strategies. For lack of a better word, we're a consulting firm, but I actually hate us. I hate labeling our work that way. We're not consultants. You can see in the background, we like to co-create the future with others. So our approach is very much grounded in community again, and again, creating space for brilliant conversations for people who need to be heard, for the diversity of peoples that need to be heard, because we are, I don't want to get be a downer, but we have some really sticky challenges to be working through in our communities, regardless where we live on this planet. And so our mission is to create spaces for new ideas, for new ways of thinking, for shifting perspectives, and bringing people who might not naturally gravitate towards each other to have a conversation together, facilitated by human beings, by intentional, really good human dialogue processes, just to have good conversations, even though we couldn't imagine these people being in the same room together. So that's in a nutshell what I like to do. It declines into a lot of different things, but that's the basis of our work.
So that like just there's a lot of personal resonance here, and also you just use the word co-creation. So I don't read French, but I see there's a sign behind you, and I'm like, aha! Like I was like, why is this capturing me so much? Yeah, I talk a lot about for myself. Like there was a distinction I had to make between what is the difference between collaboration and co-creation for me,
Yeah.
and they do feel very different for me. I would like to hear it from your standpoint, like around that, because it's so interesting talking to you, Jason. What I hear here, like you, what I hear is like I feel possibility when I talk to you, because people ask me when I was doing a lot of like my social work, they're like what's your vehicle of change? And for
Yeah.
me, my vehicle of change was conversation.
Mm.
And I feel like that's what I'm hearing from you. Like if we can create it, like in facilitating these conversations and these dialogues and using the tools of conversation and intentional dialogue, change is occurring. So
Yeah.
I want to stay a little bit in that space here. Tell me about for you what the difference between collaboration, co-creation is, and then how you're able to like interweave that with conversation. I'm very curious.
Yeah. Well, you naturally have the gift of asking good questions. So
Mm,
I appreciate that. Questions are really a gift, and can be a trap as well sometimes. But
mm,
so just sending you some appreciation and gratitude for the questions,
receiving
because
that. Thanks.
um, really strongly distilled questions are very clear and very inspiring. So, great question. Collaboration for me is a non-committal connection. It has it has very little engagement and promise for change. It is something that is so vague. We can collaborate, but on what? What does it give us? What's the synergy between each other? What's the give and take? What's the relationship? What's the why behind our collaboration? We often have to define that with words and on paper. For me, co-creation instantly tells me that we're not sure where we're going, but we are going together. Um, in my communities, we often say, uh, and we've all heard the phrase, if you want to go fast, go alone, and if you want to go far, go together. Um, and so co-creation is about bringing the whole system in the room. When I facilitate conversation, and when we all facilitate conversations, we cannot have conversations without the parties impacted and the parties involved about the conversation. So nothing about us without us is often a phrase that we use. So when we talk about inclusion in conversation, we can't be talking about others without having these people in the room. So our job, and this is where co-creation comes in for me, is we can't create for others. We need to create with others, and we need to create together. So co-creation for me is bringing the whole system in the room, bringing the right mix of people into the room to have the right conversation. And if a conversation is usually too easy, it usually means that it's not the right mix of people in the room. Um, Not saying that it should be conflictual conversation or a debate or yes versus no or black versus white. It needs to be nuanced, and for that we need to create space for those nuances, and so that everyone can feel safer, not necessarily the safest, but we try to call them brave spaces instead of safe spaces where people can just show up. It doesn't make it easy. um, we can't be hiding our head in the sand and saying, climate change and racial inequities and all these things. Other people would take care of that for us. So co-creation for me is engaging. It is about commitment. It is about putting, getting your hands dirty, committing resources, time, human energy to something that's really important for us. And it also means that we need to dive deep, and it's a long drive. It's not a one and done. When we facilitate really harsh conversations, we can't just say, let's chat about, you know, um, community relations for an hour during a panel discussion. We actually need months and years of conversation and relationship building and connection to co-create a better future. And that's the translation of this. Co-créer un meilleur avenir is co-creating a better future. And that's what we want to do by bringing people into the right spaces and into the right conversations, and calling out people who are having really important conversations without the right people in the room.
My body's on fire right now, and it's really exciting. It's really exciting here, and so I'm going to share this right now because um, what you're saying is deeply impacted me. It's reminding me of something that I knew, something that I believed in, and something I walked away from. And I want to make sure I say this right now in case any outliers are listening. Maybe co-creation is not your thing. Maybe community and facilitation isn't your thing here, but there's a like I want to like pull in that component of like allies. Is there something in you that you felt maybe couldn't be done, or maybe you didn't have like the skills at the time, or who would want that? And I'm gonna share with you like right now as I hear you speak, Jason, I'm like, oh, this is a reflection of exactly what I was hoping to be possible 5 years ago, 4 years ago. And I went on a different path because I wasn't sure how to do it or if it could be done. And in talking to you now, I'm like, oh, yeah, everything that everything you say is exact like that just feels like truth to me. And I want to pass this on to any outliers here in this conversation for you to just like dig for yourself and see like what's that thing that you know to be true that perhaps you weren't able to find the external validation or the external like evidence that you walked away from. And I'm having that moment right now with you, Jason. This is just we say in our community, it's just a Tuesday. This is just your life. Yeah, it's just a Tuesday for you. I think it's actually like, I think they were recorded as a Wednesday or something like that. But, you know, for me, it's monumental. It's monumental. And I want to just let you know, like, there's impact in just you showing up here today. And I want to make sure I put that out here front and center.
I feel heard. Thank you. I,
Yeah,
I really feel heard. Thank you.
absolutely. Like, so let me ask you here. So, I love the element of like the conversations that don't need to be easy. If it's too easy,
Yeah.
then like it wasn't the right mix of people. I find that here also in the podcast where I'm like, I tell people, I'm like, challenge me, like bring it, like I'm willing for this whole thing to get blown up, is what I like. I'll say, because I'm just like, there's something in being able to discover something new with one another here. I'm curious here. How do you like the how do you actually get the various like people into the room? So, because I was talking about this just a little bit earlier, but most things I find online are all about getting one specific group of people into the room, the same demographic. You talk about the algorithms. People are like, well, I need to make sure that I like, what do I need to do to make sure that the algo works, so on and so
Yeah.
forth. And everyone is curated to more of the same. And what I feel with you is that you're more of the same and easier. And what I feel with you is like you're like, let's bring in different and like and have real or like I don't think it's necessarily harder, but it's more meaningful, more impactful. Like there's something there. So I love to just hear a little bit about like from your standpoint about it feels kind of like counter to the wave of everything else that we see. Love to just get your thoughts on it and how you're navigating that.
Yeah. That's a great question. I don't think that I have answers that are super clear or obvious solutions. Um, but in my experience, it is about preparing rather than the thing itself. And I'll explain what I mean. In the facilitation world, we spend at least 3 to 5 times more time preparing what we are going to host than the actual event itself. So preparing ourselves, building the right relationships, not just sending out an invite on social media. It's not about the logistics about a conversation. It is about all the work that we've been doing as outliers to connect people, connect ideas. And then the conversation becomes a culmination of all of that and also a new beginning for all of that. So what I hear a lot um, in my work is um, this conversation was great, but Monday morning I'm back into my old space. I'm back at the office. So when we have great conversations, we know we've been to conferences, we've been to, panel discussion, we've been to great events. Hopefully, if we're lucky, to or have the privilege to attend events and network and connect. And then when we get back to our office on the Monday, it's really hard to keep that momentum going. And so, to your point earlier, it is about community. It's the event itself, the conversation is a point of reference more than anything. It is an end to building relationships, preparing, asking the right questions. And it's also a beginning for a constellation of people taking on those little sparks of conversation and bringing them into their work. Um, so bringing those people together is about relationship building, and whether it's building a team for our company or for our nonprofit or connecting to the right people, it needs to be highly curated, um, not through being exclusive, but by being open to these conversations and saying, yeah, I'd like to meet up for coffee. Let's see what ideas we can drum up together. Um, and we need to be realistic through these conversations. We know that the big sticky topics that we want to get into aren't going to be resolved within a few hours of conversation. And so we need to be a little patient as human beings. When we build those connections, we have those conversations. We actually practice one of these methodologies, which was actually which has an international community of practice called open space. And open space is a great way to bring people together without any hidden agendas or any preconceived ideas of what the conversation will be. And what we notice is in open space, every conversation is important, whether it's at the table or in the hallway or at the coffee shop next door. Those are all really important conversations. the connections that we often make when we connect through community aren't always formal. They're not always through these events or gatherings. They're often at the coffee shop during the break, or at the bar after hours. Um, Being curious and open to those conversations and connections are really important, and those are crucial for um, advancing some really um, important pieces of work, like building our communities, building more resilient communities, being future focused and being ready for the future, whatever it may be. So when we say co-creating a better future, we talk about that all the time. When we bring people together, we leave with a checkout, what we call. And so we ask a question of, what are you taking away? What are you leaving behind? Maybe you had limiting beliefs that you want to let go of now that you've experienced this today. And your listeners might want to do that when at the end of this conversation. It's like, what have you gained, and what are you letting go of? Asking those simple questions is really important. So at the end of the event, we ask that question, or any other question, to kind of crystallize the moment and saying, this is not the end of it. It's just a new beginning to more questions and more conversations. An answer to one question allows us to ask us a follow-up question and have those connections that come later. So when we talk about community building and connecting community through conversation, this is exactly what we preach or we teach, is to not stop there, not stop at the closing of a panel discussion, but ask yourself the question, what did that conversation spark in me, and what am I going to do with it now?
All right. So we're gonna keep playing. Jason, this is fantastic. Like it's fantastic here. Outliers, I'm gonna invite you here with something that Jason just said, and we're gonna make this real, right? So Jason, I heard you ask more than one question, but there were two questions here that I think that I'm gonna just like ask Outliers to take on, which is, what are you taking away from this, and what are you leaving behind? And
Yeah.
Jason gave us an opportunity to look at it through the lens of this one conversation that we're having right here. But you also said it takes community, it takes ongoing thing, right? This is just one event. This episode is just one event that you're listening to, right? You have multiple of these events throughout your day. So my invitation here, Outliers, is for the next 24 hours. Every conversation you have, whether it's a conversation in a meeting, a conversation with one person, a conversation with a family member, even a conversation with yourself. Like, I'm going to go to that level here. And my invitation is for the next 24 hours, build the skill of asking yourself, what did I take away from that conversation? And what am I leaving behind? And just be in that. No one else even needs to know. You can invite them to come play if you want to or not. But for yourself, build this muscle. See what happens for yourself here, and see how that even continues to grow within you over the next 24 hours. I think it's a really, really fun game. We play it inadvertently here all the time. But I love it. Was the first time that I realized that, like, I hadn't actually invited Outliers to come play as well.
Mhm.
And it's really, what you're doing here is you're expanding what is the conversation, right? The conversation is between us because we're the ones that are here talking, but it's actually a conversation on behalf of and with other Outliers, even if they're not able to put their input in directly at this time. I appreciate you, like, kind of expanded my field of awareness
Mhm.
when it comes to what we are doing here.
I recognize every time that I'm in conversation that I'm not the expert holder. I'm not the knowledge keeper.
Mhm.
I don't know diddly squat about a lot of things.
Yeah.
Um, I ask questions out of curiosity. So whatever I've said or whatever I'm saying in this conversation, don't take it as truth. If it feels truthful to you, hold it as truth. If that's your thing.
Yeah.
But I don't, I don't have the expertise. I've never called myself an expert. I've always called myself a practitioner,
Yeah.
which for me is a way better word. Whether it's like lifelong learner or steward or uh, being a facilitator is great, because I'm so grateful for the conversations that I've been able to host on so many topics that blow my mind every time, about you know, semiconductors and advanced manufacturing and politics and macroeconomics. I've been in rooms and I'm like, oh, what question do I ask now? And
Yeah.
it's so great. And I think if we ask more questions, we just naturally shift into this space of curiosity. Uh,
Yeah. There's something that's really playing out for me as you're saying this. I'm sorry, I interrupted. Please finish.
no. I was going to say, and sometimes there are no answers to these questions, but we get a feeling off of it, and we don't need to find the words necessarily to answer the question. I think we're trained to do that. We went to school, we get tested, we get asked questions, we answer. Some questions don't need answers; they just need
Yeah.
thoughtfulness.
I love that. I love that.
Mm.
Um, I love it because you're actually when you, in asking saying that statement, it actually put me in the juxtaposition of seeing two things for me. I often say to people, uh, I don't leave rhetorical questions unanswered. Um, and so like because I believe in the power of questions. So even if someone's like, like at the end they finish their statement, they're getting done, and they just want to kind of like just it's just like an aside, like, and I'm like, I ask myself, I'm like, do I know? Like what did like what are they like does that make sense? And I'm like, let me check out the sensations that I have in here. Like you've given
Yeah,
me an opportunity to actually be in there. So that's one side of the things. But I also believe very much like I believe if from what I'm hearing from you that questions are more powerful than answers. Um,
absolutely.
and a really great question is one question and the person doesn't have an answer because that to me is when you've actually taken them down a path that they wouldn't normally have gone down on their own.
Yeah,
And I love those moments, and it's like that doesn't actually require an answer because any the whole point of that question or like and it wasn't actually let me pause myself because it's not like there was a point. The intention is to open up new pathways, to see new perspectives, to give you an opportunity to reflect on something in a way that you may not have done, or to change the lens in which you see in it.
mm,
But it wasn't like any specific question is supposed to be a gotcha, aha, now you see what I was trying to get you to see. It's
yeah,
just like, but it's like, well, there's something in that where it's just like something opened up, something new is emerging. Let it emerge. We don't need to converge it down to a specific response.
yeah. Questions are, people in the scientific world do this all the time. Scientific researchers ask us what ask a question, and it's a very technical question. Like, does this do that? Does a virus act this way, or how does it act? Um, and they can find a logical conclusion to that question. And then a lot of the questions that we ask in community are highly complex.
Yes.
I was like, what's the future of work? Like, no research paper is going to answer that question very clearly and logically for us, but it is a conversation starter. So, to your point, and well, to our point today, is not all questions need answers, and we know that complex questions don't have clear answers. There are no bad answers, wrong answers in these community conversations. There are ways that we can have negative impact in our community and hurt others if we don't act in a intentional and positive way. But when we talk about society and our communities and the resiliency of our communities, we just need to ask the right questions and see what happens.
So, I'm going to give you something else here. I'm realizing this is my style. I like to I like to play this along the way. Um, the the invitation I have for you. So, just take a look at the questions you're also asking. Right. So, like, see, because I'm hearing the power in this here. Take a look at the questions you're asking or not asking, right? And just take inventory. Like a lot, like right now, I want to just like open up space. There's room for you. Like if you're already looking at the questions you have, see what like see what the next levels of questions may be. But right now, I just feel like it's just like let's just become aware. I feel like there's a lot of like, can we bring awareness in? Because a lot of what you're talking about, Jason, is like it happens here on this podcast with every person I talk to, but it's not explicit.
Yeah,
Like, and so it's very nice to be able to be in the conversation, like in that way. Because even when I invite people on, I'm like, do you want to co-create? Can we have a co-create? Like, I'm looking to co-create with you. Like, I know that there's something greater than what we're doing right now.
mm,
Um, this is just the first way that I get a chance to show you that like I'm serious about co-creation.
yeah.
You know,
Can I offer just a, I guess, I want to offer a tiny
Bring
bit
it.
of
Yes.
structure in that invitation. I was
Yes.
on like a second level. Um, when we craft good questions in the social impact space, social entrepreneurship, community space, we start with the same three words. And those words are, how might we?
Mm.
Um, how might we is an invitation for action. So, how is let's get down and dirty and really start acting on something. How might is about being open to possibility, to be curious. We don't know it'll work, but it might. And we obviously speaks to the collective we, to us, to all the people, the peoples that are impacted, involved, need to be included. And then we craft questions together. So we co-create those questions. So how might we create a better future for our community? How might we instill more confidence in entrepreneurs? How might we create a place where our children can thrive? It's just a great way to start off, especially if you have the blank page uh, problem. To start with those three words and see what comes up, depending on your work, your field, what's really inspiring you in the moment, what change you want to bring in the world. I just find it a great way to get your hands dirty and jump uh, in a very intentional way.
I appreciate this. I'm getting excited to spend time in your world, Jason, because
Anytime.
there's something really real that's being lit up, and I'm like, oh yes, there's something here. We're gonna start wrapping up the conversation here.
Yeah.
Um, I think I have one question for you, and this is more on like the commercial side, right? So I know that like with your business here. So given like what you do, how are you like able to bring people in to actually like turn this into like to bridge the gap between like the good you're doing out in the world and then like the finances and like being able to go from that. It's really important for our us outliers here because like a lot of us are doing something that we really believe in, but that gap of being able to continue to fund what we believe in falls apart. So I'm just really curious if you can speak to that. And this it's an unfair question for the amount of time that we have left
Yeah.
here. But I would love to even just like a little bit if you can speak to that just a bit.
We are a company. We're not a nonprofit organization. So we get we get funding from our clients. Most of our clients are nonprofit organizations, foundations, charitable organizations, mainly in Canada, but also abroad. And our work is very much about hosting others. And so a lot of these projects look like team retreats, like training programs, capacity building workshops. So if an organization has a budget for continuous learning or leadership development, we are in that space mostly. And then we also have conversations. So facilitation is a means to an end. And some of those ends are thinking about the future of our organization. How do we plan ahead as a business, as a nonprofit, as a government, as a public agency? Um, and we do a lot of public consultation. So we get municipalities, governments who want to engage with community, with citizens, and learn about their needs, their wants. Um, so here in New Brunswick and across the country, we create space for conversations for clients like governments, businesses. We are also a diversity supplier. So our company is a women-owned and LGBTQ-owned company. So we do also work with these communities for any types of projects, studies, public forums, events. And so that brings me to the last piece is creating events that are really engaging. Event planning, the logistics side is not our thing. We tend to collaborate with other companies who are really good at booking hotels and and catering and all that stuff, and the more technical stuff. And then we bring the container for the experience. So we're process designers in that way. Um, Organizations bring us in to say, how do we flip the script on the traditional panel Q&A type of event, and how do we create something that's much more engaging? How do we make sure that people come out of this event and say, wow, I don't know where this is going to bring me, but it's going to bring me somewhere. And it's been a great experience. So people who see us facilitate, they know that we are kind and curious and open, and we try to create uh, a space where they can be themselves, where they feel taken care of. We host others. That's kind of the key word, is hosting others. It's about hosting a dinner party at your home. You're going to take care of the people that you invite. You're going to make good food. You're going to create a decor. You're going to clean up your house or your apartment. I'm sure you've hosted, friends and family at your home, and you want them to be nourished and inspired and have a good experience. And this is what we infuse in these conferences that sometimes are a little bit too traditional and bland and corporate. We inspire a bit more co-creation into these events.
Well, I appreciate it, Jason. And since you let us know about like how you actually bring that out to life with your clients, would you mind letting us know if anyone wants to go deeper with you, if anyone's interested in exploring co-creation with you, like what are the best ways for them to do that?
Well, you can connect through our social media. I'll give you all the details so you can put in the show notes and stuff.
Yeah.
But ostrategies.ca is our website. Myself, I mostly connect through LinkedIn. So Jason Doiron, you can find me there, and I'm always open for a Zoom call, a coffee chat. We have great technology that can connect us. We're in like two opposite corners of North America, you and I. So, and we're having great conversations. So, I'm very open to having conversations with anyone. Very generous with my time. I don't watch the clock, and I'm always again opening to saying yes and having good conversation with whoever wants to dive into those topics. And I have plenty of ideas and post-it notes I can share of experiences and anecdotes, and obviously if people want to work with us, we love working with people who really want to co-create a better future with us, and we'll never say no to that opportunity.
Oh, I love that here. So, I'm going to end with like it's going to be three questions here. We're going to keep it. In this case, we're going to be looking at that time a bit, so we're going to keep it a little bit briefer than I would like to. Usually,
Sure.
I'll have more space.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna change my questions to ask your question. So, what's one thing that you're taking away from this conversation, Jason?
I'm taking away a new friend. Niiamah is it's so great to connect with a good, um, genuine person. I take away a new friendship. Yeah, that's the big one for me.
Oh, I appreciate like thank you for bringing that in. I appreciate this here. Yes, the feeling like I realize like I'm also taking that with me. What are you leaving behind?
Oh, I'm leaving behind probably the anxiety that I had to be interviewed uh, or facilitated by someone else. I usually am the one asking the questions.
Mm.
Uh, and I'm leaving behind the anxiety that comes up sometimes when I am hosted by others. Uh, and this was a great experience. I appreciate that.
I appreciate you, and I know there's someone I want to connect you with. We'll make sure we do that offline here. Outliers, if you want to invite anyone into the conversation that was just had here, please take the time to share it with someone. Help expand their day, give them a chance to co-create with us, and we'll see where all this goes. Um, I have to ask you one last question. And the last question I have here is I call the time capsule question. And this is a question that, like, what's a message that you would leave for yourself here, Jason, that you would come back to in 10 years? When you have 10 years more of experience, 10 years more of created, the better future is 10 years more like down the path. What's something you want to remind yourself of that you want to leave for yourself in this moment using your wisdom?
Oh, Wow. I'm blown away by that question. Uh, uh 10 years from now, Jason, I oh wow. I'm gonna say that 10 years from now, Jason, he'll be 51. I hope that you're reminding yourself every day to be grateful for what's happening to you and what life is giving to you.
With that, Jason, we are complete. Thank you so much for being you. Thank you for
Oh,
bringing all that you have here.
thank you,
Um,
Niiamah.
I just really appreciate you, and thanks for bringing us back into the real spirit of co-creation and conversation. There's a lot that I've gained from this.
Ça fait mon plaisir. Merci. Thank you so much.
Mm.